Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Moni Edwards. I am the Public Information Officer at the Virgin Islands Housing Finance Authority. We are here this afternoon to get public feedback and answer any and all questions you may have regarding the Neighborhood Revitalization Program. In just a moment, I will turn it over to Mr. Donnie Dorset, who is the Senior Program Manager. He will be able to give you a lot more information regarding the Neighborhood Revitalization Program. Also in the room, we have Ms. Ann Hanley, who is the Director of Programs of CDBG DR at VIHFA. Ms. Hanley, if you can stand. You don't want to stand?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
All right, so we will go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Donnie Dorset. Again, he's the Senior Program Manager at VIHFA. Mr. Dorset?
So, good afternoon, everyone. Again, as Ms. Monet Edwards stated, I am the Economic Revitalization Senior Program Manager at Virgin Islands Housing Finance Authority. And today we're going to discuss the Neighborhood Revitalization Program. This is a disaster recovery initiative that's tied to Hurricanes Irma and Maria. If you're not aware, the Virgin Islands Housing Finance Authority is the custodian of recovery dollars that were sent to the territory, and this is one of the programs that we're getting ready to launch. So without further ado, I will get into the presentation and we will open the floor afterwards for questioning. So this is just a program overview. The Neighborhood Revitalization Program is funded by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. The program will fund $12.6 million in projects designed to preserve the community's commercial, residential, and historic sites. As the slides come up, I will just speak to the slides. I won't be speaking word for word. As I mentioned, of course, funding is due to Hurricanes Irma and Maria, and we see the Neighborhood Revitalization Program as one of the key things for not only disaster recovery, but for long-term socio-economic growth of the territory. So before we get into neighborhood revitalization, there's some definitions I wanted you to know because I may mention these words throughout the presentation. The first one is micro-enterprise. And for the purposes of the CDBG DR program, or CDBG, micro-enterprises consist of 5 or fewer employees. That's the definition HUD has. Neighborhood revitalization is basically an investment in neighborhoods that have gone through periods of stagnation, often leading to negative socioeconomic or real estate market trends, basically just negative, flat. Small business is defined as composed of 75 employees or less. In the territory in the Virgin Islands, most of our businesses are considered small businesses for the most part. And this is going to come up when we go into the small business component of neighborhood revitalization. We're seeking training providers, individuals or firms who are able to train small businesses and entrepreneurs. Training programs must be designed to build socioeconomic growth and resiliency, and provide training in mitigating strategies that prevent or lower business disruption to natural or man-made disasters. So, what is neighborhood revitalization? It is built into 2 parts. The first part is the building facade and streetscape enhancement program. The second part is the small business grant and technical assistance program. With anything that's funded by HUD, there has to be a national objective. In this case here, the national objective is low to moderate income. So we're looking at low to moderate income jobs, low to moderate income area, low to moderate clientele. That is our national objective for neighborhood revitalization. So the first component of neighborhood revitalization we're going to talk about is the building facade and streetscape enhancement. Could you move on to the next slide, please? So what building facade and streetscape enhancement program is, basically, is what we're looking at is, in our research and development of the neighborhood revitalization, we went to all 3 islands and met with various stakeholders. And one of the things that came across with all that research and development we did, we have buildings that may have received minimum damage from the storms then. So broken glass, swollen doors, things that impacted the facade or the visage of a building, those things might be eligible to be fixed under the building facade and streetscape enhancement. Additionally, what we're looking at with respect to the building facade program is that we can do curb appeal. We can improve the outside of the area, put benches, security gates, security lighting. We could replace roof spouting. We cannot touch a roof. This program doesn't deal with that. Nor can we internally go in and fix a building. Everything has to be from the outside, so to speak. And that is what we're looking at. Many of you, when you traverse, well, this is St. Thomas, but if you see our downtown areas, you've seen what has become of that. If you travel to St. Croix and you see Christiansted and Frederickstead, you've seen how those buildings have over time been impacted. And more so over some of those same buildings were impacted from Hurricanes Irma and Maria. So what we're looking for is for people to come to us with projects that we could probably fund to enhance and, improve the facade of those buildings. Next slide. Oh, by the way, let's go back just a second. This building is actually a building in St. Croix that one time they used to use as a health clinic. But we're hoping that this would be something as an example of what we're looking at the building facade to do. Next slide. So we have an evaluation criteria for the building facade and streetscape enhancement. So I'm just going to name off a few of the activities with respect to that. So we looked at project need. So if you're applying under the building facade, you will need to provide to us photos, the building, the streetscape, gateways. Photos must demonstrate the impact of Hurricanes Irma and Maria. The Neighborhood Revitalization Program is being funded by disaster recovery dollars. We have 2 sets of programs, disaster recovery and mitigation. Mitigation isn't online yet, but our focus for now is just the disaster recovery grants. We'll ask you about the project impact. How will this project benefit the town, a community, or individual business? Do you have community support for that project? You have to provide that evidence in your application. If it's a cost estimate, we would recommend individuals get like a cost estimate from, a reputable licensed contractor in the Virgin Islands if you decide to do the building facade streetscape enhancement program. And then we're going to ask you about the sustainability of your project. What activities you plan to do with respect to the building. One of the things with the building facade that we're looking at is if we approve this project, what do you plan to do? Do you plan to put in a training facility for individuals in the community? Are you planning to put a business? Are you going to do something mixed house, like probably have a small business and rent an apartment? Those are things we're going to ask you. Next slide. So there's an amortization period we created. The monies that we give you for the building facade is going to be a forgivable loan. However, we don't want individuals to take the money, fix the building, and then try and sell it afterwards. So we've created this basically amortization. So If you look to sell it, you have to reimburse us. You have to look to reimburse us. After 1 year is 80%. After 3 years is 40%. Over 5 years, it becomes 0%, 0%, so you don't owe us anything. So it is a forgivable loan that is being given to you. Next slide. So the next part of neighborhood and revitalization is the small business grant and small business technical assistance program. And that's what we're going to speak about next. So under the small business entrepreneurship grant, or small business recovery grants, I like to call it for short, I mentioned these definitions before. A business comprised of 75, a company that has fewer or 5 employees. What we're looking to do is for businesses that were impacted by the storms, we're going to give you recovery money for operational expenses that you may have been impacted from Hurricanes Irma and Maria. So these are some of the activities under it: licensing fees, advertising, maintenance and repairs. When it comes to office expenses, that's kind of fickle. We have to see exactly what your office expenses are, because HUD has some guidelines with office expenses, so we need to see exactly what it is. But we're trying our best to assist the community as possible with respect to the small recovery grants. Again, this is going to be like a forgivable loan. It's recovery grants, so you don't pay us back. Next slide, please. So there's an evaluation, and this is also part of your application. The description of the business, the documentation of the type of business, the number of employees, the pictures, the business location, cost estimate. We'll be asking the same thing with respect to, we want to conduct a cost reasonableness of your business. So you have to provide that to us. You have to document what your losses was due to Hurricanes Irma and Maria. Next slide. So under the small business technical assistance part, this is where we look for certified technical assistance providers. What we're looking for is individuals who could train small businesses how to withstand business disruption in a natural or man-made disaster. So we've seen what happens with Hurricane Irma and Maria, where in some cases, business had to shut down. Some businesses shut down for good. Some individuals had to basically curtail their businesses because of Hurricanes Irma and Maria. And even in a similar case with COVID-19, same scenario. Businesses had to temporarily shut down or find ways of how to be innovative in getting their goods or services out there. So we're going to have like training providers, and those who are training providers that do apply, they'll have some regulations they have to follow. For example, they have to target small businesses and businesses that existed, well, during that time and now, how to mitigate during, again, a natural or man-made disaster. And we're also targeting businesses that were created and licensed no later than September 30th, 2017. So we will want the eligible training providers to look at those businesses as well. Next slide. So these are the areas that we're looking at with the eligible training providers. They could do business plan development, financial management, marketing, inventory, or even the development of a skilled workforce. These are things that we're looking for whoever applies to be a TA provider. Next slide, please. So this is just some housekeeping information. I mentioned some of it already. Applicants' projects must demonstrate a tie to the hurricanes Irma and Maria and an unmet need, physical location in the Virgin Islands, and then some of it is what businesses have to do. You have to be in good operating standing, licensed, just basically a good small business within the territory. Next slide. Okay, so application submission review. Our original deadline was May 8th. However, we've been getting a lot of phone calls. We've gotten applicants who've already applied. So we've extended it to May 15th, Monday, May 15th, 2023. And the applications are available online. But if you need an application, we're going to provide you our contact information, so we'll always be able to give you applications. Of course, before 12 a.m., we want to get all the applications in. They have to be, this is an error, excuse me for that, because we just changed it to the 15th, originally May 8th. These is our delivery places. Damara is our Frenchtown main office. The 100 Lagoon complex is in Frederiksted. Hard copies we're going to accept from 8 to 5 p.m. And we're also doing this, applicants will receive a letter of intent to accept or reject the application based on adherence to the listed criteria. Deficient applications will be returned to the applicant with written correspondence detailing the errors and required corrections. 5 business days will be provided from the date of the written correspondence to make the required corrections to the application. So if we see some type of deficiency in your application, we will write to you, and you have 5 days to get back to us with all the corrected information. Next slide, please. So this is my contact information, Donnie Dorset, Economic Revitalization. This is my contact, and DeLon Mercer is my colleague. That's her extension. For those of you who taking pictures of the presentation, if you signed in and you wrote legibly with your email address, we will be forwarding you a copy of the presentation as we've done with other individuals. We had hearings, we had virtual hearings on March 9th and 16th. Last week we did an in-person hearing on St. Croix, April 4th. And today now we're doing an in-person hearing, and on the 13th we'll be doing it also on St. John Legislative Annex. I think this is about it. Flip the slide. So that basically concludes the presentation. We want to give enough time for people to speak on if they have any questions about the whole Neighborhood Revitalization Program. And on behalf of the Interim Executive Director, Dana Clendenin, we thank you for coming out here and appreciative of your participation in this town hall meeting, and we look forward to your application. So with that saying, I would like to open the floor for any questions with respect to the program. Thank you.